kind of boy was Xavier?
Always happy, always the energy, just always having energy, more energy than I had. Always wanting to jump around and play and jump off the bed and jump in your arms, and you wake up every day. That was a reason to wake up every day.
I always feel like our boys have more energy than the mamas do.
Yeah.
Yeah, too loud.
Yeah. Mm.
Keep us going.
It just upset me because so many people had different stories that weren't accurate the day. The water was for Xavier. We went out and went out on a few outings and things, and we had pulled over briefly before we had gotten to the park because Xavier had I drive a van. Xavier had gotten out of his seat and had went to the back and dived behind the seat. So I pulled over and I opened the door, and I said, "We have to get back in our seat belts." And he said, he jumped out and he said, "Bruh." And I said, "Oh, you scared me." And he came back and got in his seat, and I closed the door and made sure that the locks, child safety locks, were on the door. I always did that. And we went on to the store, me, him, and his sister, and my 17-year-old son. My 17-year-old stayed in the car. Xavier, me and his sister went inside the store, got the snacks and juices that he wanted. I had a tablet and this phone. They got out and Xavier didn't want to get out. He wanted to sit in the car and play on the tablet, and my daughter, she played on the phone, and so they weren't interested on the baseball games or anything that were going on with the other children in the park. So we basically spent our time in the car. And his foster mother, who had him for the 19 months, Faida, she had worked with my son tremendously. My son, he did have a history of running, but by being in her home, I never had those problems within 19 months. We could walk down the street, we could hold hands, he wouldn't run, he would sit at the table with you, everything. He knew how to motion when he wanted certain things, and his motion that day was that he wanted some water because he was thirsty from the snacks and the juices. My 17-year-old was in the car, as well as my daughter, and Xavier had got a little bit upset because the tablet had died. So I told him, okay, well, we're gonna have to plug it up, and we're gonna plug it up, and we're going to let it get a little charge to it. And then I turned it back on, and he motioned again. He wanted some water. So I told him, okay, Papa, I'm going to get you some water. The water fountain was in visual view of me. It wasn't the one by the pool where they said. It was not that one at all. I proceeded to get out of the car, and I told my 17-year-old I'll be back. My 17-year-old, he is not disabled. He is not a disabled child. My daughter, she does suffer from autism, but she's high functioning in her autism, knowing that she knows things, she's aware of things. And the police, they kept trying to tell her, well, maybe he had went another direction, and my daughter was adamant on the direction where they found my son, and she kept telling them, no, he went that way. And they kept saying, no, maybe he went this way, and she kept saying no. So after I went down to get the water, I proceeded to come back to the car, and on the side of my van, one of the windows were broken, but there was something covering the window. It didn't appear to be disturbed to me when I went around the car and discovered that Xavier was gone. My daughter, I went around and I opened the door and I said, Xavier, here's your, and he wasn't in his seat. I then proceeded to think maybe he had went again behind the seat again. And my daughter, I said, where's Xavier? I said, Xavier, you back there? And she said, no, Mama. He went out the window that way. My 17-year-old was outside of the car, facing with his back towards the car. And he had earphones on his ear at the time. And I then went around the car and I told my son, I said, did you not see your brother get out of the car? And he took his earphones out. He said, no, he's in the car, Mom. I said, no, he's not. Your sister just said he got out of the car. Come on, let's go look. He then turned around. We immediately, my son dropped everything. We then proceeded to run to the play area. I told my daughter to stay. My daughter did not move. She stayed in the car the entire time. My son, he then went through the entire play area. I scaled the outside. I then proceeded to run down and go towards the other play area and the picnic tables with phone in hand. And I then proceeded to not see him as I went down the hill. And when I went down the hill, when I turned around, I just started dialing 911 immediately then. I didn't hesitate, didn't wait, nothing. I called the police right then and there and informed them of what had happened. And they asked me when was the last time I seen my child. I told them he was in the vehicle, parked up by the tennis courts. They then said that they would meet me over there. So then I proceeded to run back up. My son was still, he said, you go back up, Mom. And we ran past the pool area and everything. My son, he went outside of the park, through the neighborhoods, everywhere. My son was nowhere to be found in the park. They then proceeded to tell us that we needed to stay by the police vehicle that was near my car. I then told them and asked them and begged them to please allow us to be a police escorted around the park to at least look for him. I know he likes water, so he may be in the bathroom washing his hands a lot, playing in soap and water. I then asked them, did they have dogs? And they said, yes, we have dogs. I then told them that, excuse my language, I told them that you need to get your dogs here. And they said their dogs didn't specialize in that. They would have to send them from San Bernardino. I told them I don't give a where you get the dogs from, just get them here. And they got a dog there, and the dog came and he went around the corner. And they then came and asked my daughter again, are you sure you didn't see your brother go that way? And my daughter said, no, he went that way, still pointing in the direction of the play area and the pool area. Me and my son, I then told them that me and my son were going to the restrooms and we were going to check the bathrooms. The police officers, a lady officer allowed us to go to the bathrooms. My son, he went in the males, I went in the females. My son, I could hear him basically kicking in the doors. And the swimming pool was right there. I looked over there briefly. It was locked. Nobody was there, no lifeguards, nothing. The whole area was completely locked. No way for him to have gotten in there. No water was splashing, no nothing. The officer came back and told us that we could not walk around any longer, that we had to come back. I then explained to her that we needed to at least be police escorted around to look, because if he's hiding somewhere, he's scared and he needs to see a familiar face in order to come out. They then told us that let them do their job and that they would do the best that they could, and they said that they would continue to search the areas. The nighttime came, foster mother, she came over. I notified her what had happened. She stayed there, we all stayed there, and when nighttime came, the detectives came and they said that they were going to use a helicopter that could sense heat. And I remember seeing my 17-year-old, he stayed in the area where he asked his sister, Stacia, are you sure he went? And she said, yes, he went that way. That was the 12th time she had pointed in that direction, that way. And then my son, he just stayed over there on the outside looking around. And I remember I saw my son, he dived over a table and he started running. And when he started running, that's when I saw the police and the detectives in the helicopter. And then they all started running, so then I started to run. And as I started to run in that direction, my son was coming back to me. And I said, "You found him?" And I was smiling. And he fell on his knees. He said, they found him. And he shook his head no, and I told him, "What do you mean no? What do you mean no?" And he said, and I just took off my shoes and I started running. And as I ran, I saw the yellow tape, and that's when I lost it. And I don't know, it was probably about 6, maybe 9 police officers grabbed me, and I told them, "No, I need to see my son. I need to see if that's my son." And they wouldn't allow me over there. And I stayed. My 17-year-old, he was supposed to have been returned back to placement. And he didn't, he said he wasn't leaving. He said he's contacted his foster mother and said, "I'm not leaving you, Mom." And we stayed, and I crossed the yellow tape about maybe 4 times because I was upset how long it was taking. And eventually the detective did come and speak with me. And when he came to speak with me, he said that he wanted me to go around to his car to the other side where the opening of the pool area was. They had contacted someone from the park to open up the pool area. So by them doing that alone, someone had, by them having to contact someone to open up the pool area, something just wasn't right about that. I then told him, "I need to see if that's my son." I had his backpack in his hand, and I told his brother. His brother said, "I have some water for him because I know he's thirsty by now from his running." And he said, "It's gonna be okay, Mama." And I asked him, did he see him? My son said, "No, I don't know for sure." They kept telling me they didn't know for sure if it was him. And then proceeded to wait. And then when I went around to speak to the detectives, there were officers and other detectives down there where they had opened up the pool area with the doors and everything. I saw them take the gurney down, and he said, "Before you go down there, I need to talk with you." And I explained to him the same exact story, told him exactly what happened. And I believe what upset my son is because before I went to get him the water, I always transition him back to let him know what's going to happen. And I do that at least an hour to 2 hours beforehand to inform him that you will have to go back to foster care, because he started to be difficult and did not want to return back to foster care because he wanted to stay with me. And his foster mother, we used to have to trick him in order to get him back in the car with her. After some time, he started to not just go back on his own. He wanted to stay, and he would always squeeze a little tighter when he would hug me and things. And with that being said, after they interviewed me in the car and they interviewed my son, they then allowed me to go down and asked for them to clear a path. And some of the officers and detectives moved to one side, other ones moved to the other side. And by then they had they had him on the gurney, and I went down and I looked, and I just lost it after that. I picked him up and asked him to get up. Told him we were going to go to McDonald's where he wanted to go. Let's get up for Mama. He didn't get up. So I held him and I rocked him and I kissed him. They allowed me to do that. And I kept rocking him. I told him he didn't like to be cold. So I needed them to, I took off my jacket and covered him up a little, and I kept rocking him and singing to him and telling him, we're gonna go to Chuck E. Cheese. You could just get up for Mama and say boo one more time. And I held him and I walked with him a little bit, and I let him take my son.